Why would a civilization go to such lengths to erase one of its own kings from history? I'm not talking about just rewriting a few records. I'm talking about destroying temples, hacking a name from every stone monument, and trying to pretend a ruler never even existed. Picture this. 3,300 years ago, deep in the golden age of ancient Egypt, one pharaoh dared to defy the pantheon of gods that had been worshipped for millennia. His name was Akhenaten, a visionary, a radical, a heretic. He was the man who tried to fundamentally change religion, the structure of power, and the very meaning of divinity in the ancient world. But after his death, the old world struck back with a vengeance. They tore down his creations, chiseled his name from stone, and attempted to wipe his entire reign from time itself. This is the story of the pharaoh Egypt tried to erase, a mystery that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. When Akhenaten ascended to the throne in 1353 BC, he wasn't just another pharaoh in a long line of rulers. He inherited a kingdom at the height of its power, a civilization built on a complex and deeply ingrained system of belief. At the heart of this system was the god Amun-Ra, the king of the gods, whose priests held immense wealth and political influence. But Akhenaten saw things differently. He looked to the sky and saw not a pantheon of squabbling deities, but one single universal power, the Aten, the physical disk of the sun. In a move that shook the foundations of Egyptian society, he declared that the Aten was the one true god, the sole creator of all life. This wasn't just a minor religious tweak, it was a revolution. He shut down the great temples of Amun and the other gods, effectively cutting off their priests from their source of power and wealth. The ancient rites, the elaborate rituals, the entire religious economy that had sustained Egypt for over 1,000 years were brought to a sudden halt. But Akhenaten didn't stop there. He abandoned the traditional capital of Thebes and built a brand new city from scratch in the desert, a place he called Akhenaten, now known as Amarna. This city was dedicated solely to the worship of the Aten. Here, under the unfiltered light of the sun, a new religion was born, one centered not on hidden idols in dark temples, but on the visible, life-giving radiance of the sun itself. For the first time in recorded history, a leader had challenged the very concept of polytheism, setting himself against an entire pantheon of established gods. It was an act of incredible audacity, one that would change the course of history and ultimately lead to his own erasure. At the heart of this radical revolution stood not one but two figures of immense power and charisma. By Akhenaten's side was his queen, Nefertiti. Her name means, "The Beautiful One has come," and by all accounts, she was a figure of breathtaking beauty and sharp intellect. But she was far more than just a beautiful queen. In the new world Akhenaten was building, Nefertiti was his co-ruler, his equal in both political power and religious authority. Together, they ruled Egypt not as mere mortal representatives of the gods, but as the sole intermediaries between humanity and the Aten. They positioned themselves as living gods on earth. The art from this period is unlike anything seen before or since in ancient Egypt. Traditional rigid poses were replaced with depictions of shocking intimacy and naturalism. We see statues and reliefs of Akhenaten and Nefertiti playing with their daughters, sharing a tender kiss, their bodies rendered with an almost alien-like quality, with elongated skulls, slender necks, and rounded bellies. This wasn't just an artistic choice, it was a theological statement. It set their family apart, marking them as both perfectly human and uniquely divine. Some historians believe they were attempting to create a new trinity, with Akhenaten as the father, Nefertiti as the mother, and the Aten as the transcendent divine force. They were the bridge between heaven and earth. But others suggest a darker motive. Did their pursuit of divinity push them too far? Did they anger the old priesthood and the general populace beyond forgiveness? The imagery is powerful and sometimes unsettling. It speaks of a couple so consumed by their vision, so intertwined with their new god that they may have lost touch with the world of mortals they were meant to rule. Their love story wasn't just a personal affair. It was a cosmic drama played out on the stage of the Egyptian Empire. Then, after 17 years of this radical rule, the sun set on Amarna. Akhenaten vanished from the historical record. The details of his death are murky, lost to the sands of time. But what happened next is crystal clear. The backlash was swift and brutal. His revolutionary city of Akhenaten was abandoned, left to crumble back into the desert from which it came. It was as if a dream had ended, and the people simply packed up and walked away overnight. The campaign to erase him was systematic and thorough. His name and image were chiseled off every monument, temple wall, and statue. On the official king lists compiled by later pharaohs, his reign, and the reigns of his immediate successors, were simply omitted. He was referred to not by name, but as the enemy or that criminal of Akhenaten. It was an attempt at damnatio memoriae, the condemnation of memory, the most severe punishment the ancient world could inflict. They didn't just want him dead, they wanted him to have never existed at all. But this raises the ultimate question: why? Why such an extreme reaction? Was it simply the revenge of the spurned priests of Amun, desperate to reclaim their power and wealth? That's certainly part of the story, but the sheer scale of the erasure suggests something more. It feels like fear. What had Akhenaten done or discovered that was so dangerous, so forbidden, that the entire Egyptian state felt it had to bury the memory of it forever? Did his communion with the sun disk reveal a truth so powerful that it threatened to unravel the very fabric of their civilization? The silencing of Akhenaten wasn't just an act of political revenge, it was an act of profound ideological terror. The mystery of Akhenaten's erasure has fueled countless theories, some of them stretching to the very edge of belief. One of the most compelling ideas is that Akhenaten was the world's first true monotheist. Some scholars, including Sigmund Freud, have argued that his worship of the single god Aten directly influenced Moses and the birth of Judaism. The parallels are striking: a single, universal creator god who cannot be depicted in an idol. Could it be that the core ideas of the world's great monotheistic religions have their ancient roots in the vision of this one heretic pharaoh? Then, the theories take a turn towards the extraordinary. The unique art style, the elongated skulls of Akhenaten and his family, and his singular focus on the sun disk, have led some to speculate about extraterrestrial contact. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that the Aten was not a metaphor for the sun, but a literal representation of a celestial vehicle, a UFO. In this view, Akhenaten wasn't a prophet, but a contactee, and his new religion was based on knowledge given to him by visitors from another world. The subsequent erasure then would have been a massive cover-up, an attempt by the establishment to hide a truth too shocking for humanity to handle. While that remains deep in the realm of speculation, it highlights the central point. The erasure of Akhenaten wasn't just about restoring old gods. It was about controlling the narrative. It was about ensuring that belief, power, and history itself remained in the hands of the pharaohs and priests who followed him. By wiping him from memory, they were trying to kill an idea they couldn't control. For over 3,000 years, they almost succeeded. The temples fell silent. His capital city was swallowed by the desert. His name was forgotten, a ghost in the annals of history. It wasn't until the discovery of his tomb and the ruins of Amarna in the 19th and 20th centuries that his story began to re-emerge, piece by painful piece. And as we rediscover him, we're forced to reconsider his legacy. The idea he championed, the radical notion of a single universal God, did not die with him. It survived, echoing through the centuries, transforming cultures and reshaping the spiritual landscape of the entire planet. One God, one truth, one divine light. So maybe Akhenaten wasn't a heretic after all. Maybe he wasn't a madman or a criminal. Maybe, just maybe, he was the first person in history to look up at the sun and see not just a celestial body, but the pure, undivided face of God. And perhaps that vision was just too bright for the ancient world to bear. Thanks for journeying with us into this incredible mystery. If you want to uncover more stories of history's forgotten kings and buried secrets, make sure to subscribe to Mystery Vault. We're digging up the past, one lost legend at a time.